Hi, I'm Walt Grayson, and welcome to the Storyteller's Chair. You know, stories are a way of life. We live stories every day, from the ups and downs of everyday living to the highs and lows of love, to just gazing up in the sky and looking at the clouds and making up our own stories. This house back behind me has a lot of stories. This is McRaven. This is Mississippi's most haunted house. It's in Vicksburg. And I've had people tell me about things they've seen, things they've heard, things that have touched them, things that they have touched. And I can tell you those stories, but I think it's much more effective if we let somebody who's experienced them tell one of their stories themselves. And so we have Melanie Roberts. Melanie is a tour guide in McRaven. Melanie is going to explain to us her experience with the Restless doll. And for that, we relinquish the storyteller's chair.
Before I share my story, there's something I'd like you to keep in mind. I was a teacher and a school administrator for over 30 years. In fact, before I came to work for McRaven, I had just retired as a Mississippi middle school principal. So you can believe me when I say nothing rattles me. But of all the occurrences I've witnessed here at McRaven, there is one that truly terrified me. Tragic, macabre, and verifiable events have transpired in and around this home. Events that perhaps tethered a few souls here. And though there have never been any suggestions that they're malicious, souls that some may say get a bit testy when doors are left propped open, or become quite verbal when encountering etiquette they may have considered rude or uncouth. From the Civil War soldiers who lived or died right on this very table, to Mary Elizabeth Howard, who passed away after giving birth and whose ghost is said to be fascinated with children and expectant mothers. That's what I feel makes McRaven's haunted history so special. Just about every alleged haunting is supported by the house's very real history. And then there's the oldest standing structure in Vicksburg, a room where a notorious highwayman bled to death in his bed, betrayed by his own wife. But this room seems to hold more than just his ghost. This is the room where the corn-shuck doll first appeared. Now I say appeared because unlike most of the artifacts at McRaven, she has no verifiable history of her own. What she does have is a nasty habit of moving by herself. She's been found lying on the bed, sitting in her favorite chair, and on a few unsettling occasions, waiting to greet us at the top of the stairs. But usually, she's resting on her back right here in her wooden crib. And that's where she was one night in November 2021 as I began my tour. I hadn't been working at McRaven very long, just a few months, and this was one of my first solo haunted tours. So I came in and took my place here by the crib, and my guests spread out in front of me by the fireplace. I was getting warmed up, telling them all about the dark history and the criminal exploits of Andrew Glass, when I noticed one young woman looking extremely pale. Now first, I thought, I am crushing it. I've got them right here in the palm of my hand. But she began to look like she might literally pass out. So I stopped and I asked, "Honey, are you okay?" She didn't speak. She just raised her arm, stretched out her finger, and pointed at the crib, where the doll was standing straight up, its expressionless gaze fixed on that young woman. The young woman said, "She just stood up all by herself. She just stood up and looked at me." Now everyone knew nobody had been near that doll. No one had even seen her move except that young woman. But everybody knew she hadn't been standing up when we came into the room. And everybody knew that that young woman had just seen something that was really terrifying. And that was enough to send us hurrying out of the room that night.
You know, it's a curious thing about that corn-shuck doll at McRaven. Nobody knows where it came from. And it hadn't been here all that long. But it's been here long enough to permanently secure a place in the seat of the storyteller's chair.